Hello, everybody, and welcome to another night of Student Ministry Online. I am Jordan, and I really need a haircut. Now, I'm so excited because on Friday, I'm finally going to get a haircut, and it's going to be excellent. This is all going to be gone. I know you'll be able to see my eyebrows again, and things will be great. So I'm looking forward to that. So tonight on Student Ministry Online, we are going to play a game with some of my good friends, the Sunbergs. So we're going to call them in a moment, but first, I just wanted to say I'm so glad that you joined us for this student ministry service. I hope that it has been encouraging and uplifting to you as a family. I hope that it's been helpful to you as a family. I hope that as we close out tonight later on, that you would say, this service tonight has helped me, it's encouraged me, and I am looking forward to spending the next hour with you, give or take. So I hope that you are doing well. Looking forward to spending some time with you. Let's call the Sunbergs and play the student ministry game. Hello, Sunbergs.
Hi, Jordan.
Let me make you, there we go. Awesome. You guys look sharp. I am excited to see you all. So we have with us Ethan, and we have Tabitha, and we have Meredith. And I was thinking that Coda might make an appearance, the brand new dog who is sweeping the internet. So who knows? He may still make an appearance. If you haven't seen him on one of the Sunbergs' social media, you must not be following any of the Sunbergs. Because, oh, there he is. He's the star of the family. There he is. Coda. He is very cute. So, and they're all very proud of him. And now the student ministry world knows all about Coda. So, how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. Awesome. So, tonight I have two options in one of these envelopes. So, one of them is Frozen Figures, the game that people still have not picked to play. That's all about numbers related to Frozen and Frozen 2. And then in the other envelope is Star Wars questions. They're questions about Star Wars. So I tried to make Iowa Hawkeye football questions, but I was very torn because if you didn't pick them, then one family would have to play them in the future. And I was like, either I make the questions that are easy enough for another family to answer that you guys would have no problem and it wouldn't be challenging, or I'd make them so difficult for you that it'd be impossible for anybody else that's not an Iowa fan. So we want Star Wars questions. So I have Frozen Figures or Star Wars. So I'm going to mix them up. And then you guys can decide if you want my right hand or my left hand.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's do right.
Okay, right hand it is. And you have chosen, dun, da, 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 ooh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right, so we're playing Star Wars questions tonight. So this is all questions about the, I focus mostly on the Star Wars Skywalker saga. So episode 1 through 9, which is just crazy that there's 9 movies. But because I think these are a little bit easier, I've only given you 2 hints. I've given you 50-50 and then hint. Hint helps. So hint and 50-50. So if we get into it and I feel like it's actually more difficult than I thought, I'll give you the 3 out of 4. So tonight, what you guys are playing for is to make me sing again. So for every every question you get right, I'll have to sing for 10 seconds at the end of the show or the end of the service. So, and you guys get to choose the song that I sing. And I know I have to tell you guys since you guys are awesome, but it's got to be appropriate. It's got to be something that I can sing to a camera. And then again, so if you didn't see me before when I sang Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, I will put my headphones in and I will sing and you can hear me sing but not the music because of copyrights. That's the word I was looking for. So you won't get to hear the music, you just get to hear my incredible voice, which if you heard me sing before, you know this is more punishment for you than me. But, so 10 seconds and you guys get to choose the song.
Okay.
So, we have 100 seconds is what's on the table. So question number 1. When was Star Wars A New Hope first released? Oh, I need to give you the options. I'm sorry. I just have so much faith in you, Sunbergs. I thought you would just know. Is it A, 1975, B, 1977, C, 1980, D, 1983? Is it 75, 77, 80, or 83?
We're going to go with 1977.
1977. Is that your final answer?
We think so.
They think so. And you guys are right. Way to go. 1977, which means I'm singing for 10 seconds, a song of your choosing. All right. Question number 2. How many Academy Awards did Star Wars A New Hope win? So it won some Academy Awards. How many did it win? Did it win A, 2, B, 4, C, 5, or D, 6?
Should we just do C? Okay, well, we're going to go with C.
They're going to go C. You have helps. You have a hint, and you have 50-50.
Let's just do C.
Okay. C.
We're going to go with C.
They're going to go with C. And 5 is not the right answer. It's actually 6. So that's a really tough question because that was a long time ago. And I didn't know that they won that many Academy Awards. So, all right. Question number 3. Which character did Peter Mayhew, the actor Peter Mayhew, play in the original Star Wars? Was it A, Darth Vader, B, Chancellor Palpatine, C, Yoda, or D, Chewbacca?
I feel like it's Darth Vader, but I really don't know the actor's name. I think we're going to go with Darth Vader.
Do you have helps? Do you want to use one of your helps?
Can we do a 50-50?
You can do a 50-50.
All right.
And I am going to remove Darth Vader and Chancellor Palpatine. So I'm going to leave Yoda and Chewbacca.
All right, we're going to go with Chewbacca.
Okay, they're going to use their help, and they're going with Chewbacca. And you guys are right. It is Chewbacca. Way to use your help to great effect. So you guys you've got 20 seconds racked up that I'll be singing, which is great for me. So question number 4. What planet does Luke find Yoda on in The Empire Strikes Back? So he goes and visits him on a planet. Is it A, Dagobah, B, Tatooine? Would you like to hear any of the other answers? No.
Let's go with A.
They're confident. A, Dagobah. All right. And you're right. Way to go. Way to go, Ethan. He knew it was Dagobah, which is awesome. So again, I was like, I think Ethan would know this, but if I get someone who's not a Star Wars fan, they're going to be like, I don't know any of those words. They all sound ridiculous to me. So I got to balance it out here. Okay. Question number 5. When was Star Wars The Phantom Menace first released in theaters? Was it A, 1999, B, 2000, C, 2001, or D, 2002? First movie in the prequels.
Could we use a hint for this one?
You can use a hint,
Okay.
and I will tell you, I hope this works, it was before Y2K.
Okay, so 1999.
Okay, you do know what Y2K is. So are you going to go with 1999?
Yeah.
They're going with 1999, and I didn't lead them astray. You are correct. So you guys have got 40 seconds racked up, which is a long time for me to be singing. So if you want to give the people a break, you can get some wrong, or you can just keep going. It's fine either way. So question number 6. What does Han Solo say to Princess Leia in The Empire Strikes Back when she says, I love you? So he's about to get frozen in carbonite, and she says, I love you. does he say A, I love you? Does he say B, I know? Does he say C, I love you too? Or does he say D, wait for me?
It says B, I know.
He says B, I know. Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That's their final answer, and it's absolutely correct.
Yay.
Okay, question number 7. When was Star Wars The Force Awakens first released in theaters? Is it A, 2013, B, 2014, C, 2015, or D, 2016?
I think it's 6.
Okay.
I think it's 2016.
Is that your final answer?
We think so.
You think so? We're going to take it as our final answer, and you were so close. It was 15. It was Christmas of 2015. But when I wrote the question, I thought it was 16 also. So I was with you. But that's 10 more seconds. People don't have to listen to me murder a song. So that's okay. Okay, question number 8. Question number 8. Who is the musical composer for the Star Wars Skywalker saga movie scores? Is it A, John Williams, B, Hans Zimmer, C, Danny Elfman, or D, Howard Shore?
A, John Williams.
A, John Williams. Is that going to be your final answer?
Yeah.
They say A, John Williams, and they are absolutely correct. John Williams is a treasure, and I wish he could compose music forever because he's awesome. But if you don't know the great music of John Williams, you actually do know it because he's like made every theme for most movies of all time that are great and amazing. Jaws, John Williams. E.T., John Williams. Star Wars, John Williams. So, I will give you a bonus question.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
So can you tell me the movies, there's a trilogy that Howard Shore made the soundtrack for? Do you know the movies that Howard Shore made the soundtracks for? You can give me the trilogy name. You don't have to give me each individual movie name.
I have no idea. Is it Lord of the Rings?
It is Lord of the Rings. I am impressed. Well, I said the question and then I was like, oh no, I think they played some of his music in one of their like orchestra concerts recently, but that might have been before you guys got to high school. So I will add 10 extra seconds for Howard Shore, the bonus. So at 10 more. So that means we are up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 70 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Oh, wow is right. People may turn off before we get to the end of me. Okay, question number 9. Question number 9. Which Star Wars movie has made the most money in movie theaters? Is it A, A New Hope, B, The Phantom Menace, C, The Force Awakens, or D, The Last Jedi?
I think it might be The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Is it The Force Awakens?
Is it The Force Awakens, he asks. And it is! It is The Force Awakens. It was the highest grossing movie of all time until Avengers Endgame came along. And then boom, it was done. Well, I take that back. Avatar might still have been bigger, but don't fact check me. Or you do. But okay, question number 10. Final question. What color lightsaber does Luke Skywalker have in Return of the Jedi? Is it A, blue, B, green, C, red, or D, purple?
I think it's green. Okay. I believe it's green.
He believes that it's green. And he's absolutely correct. It is green. Which means we are up to 90 seconds. So that's a minute and a half of me singing whatever song you guys choose. So just know, whatever song I sing, it will never be the same again. So make sure that you decide you choose a song that you're fine with me destroying for all time. Because I think that you'll never hear Never Gonna Give You Up Again the same way after my rendition of it. So, you guys can choose whatever song you want. Coda wanted to get his opinion in. But you guys choose whatever song you want and then let me know and I will sing it at the end of the service.
All right.
Okay.
So, thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you, Meredith. Thanks, Coda. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the night. Talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye. Well, that was awesome. I am thoroughly impressed with the Sunberg's knowledge of the Star Wars movies. Like, for real. The only 2 questions they got wrong was how many Academy Awards did Star Wars A New Hope win? Which, I don't know, like, I think I could have asked, did it win an award? And they went no, because nobody talks about how many awards they win. They just talk about, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. So, you know, I'm going to give them that one. And then, when was the Star Wars Force Awakens released? Like, I'm in the same boat. It's the end of 2015, which feels a lot like 2016. So, good work, Sunbergs. So now I am going to throw it to announcements. Talk to you in just a few seconds with me and some announcements about what's coming up for Student Ministry Online. Hey everybody, Jordan here. I am excited to give you a couple of quick announcements. Announcement number 1 is that there will be Student Ministry Online next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Wherever you found it tonight, it should be there again next week, 7 p.m. I hope that you will join us as we continue our series in Unstoppable Joy, the letter to the Philippians. Announcement number 2. Would your family like to be the next contestants on the Student Ministry Online game show? Please email me, jordan@carneyefree.com. Even if you've played before in the past and you'd like to play again, we'd love for you to join us again for another 10 questions about something. We'll spin the game show wheel and find out which one you're going to play. I'm so excited to worship together with you, so I'm going to pass it on to the band.
Thank you guys for watching. Please join us and sing.
I've been held in your hands from the moment that I wake up till I lay my head. I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your voice, you have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no as a father, I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Word creation suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry. From north to south and east to west, we hear Christ be magnified. Where the whole earth echoing His eminence, His name one verse of sea and sky. From rivers to the mountain tops, we hear Christ be magnified. When every creature finds its inmost melody, every human heart is native cry, and one enraptured hymn of praise will sing Christ be magnified. Oh, be lifted high, Jesus.
I'll stand strong and worship you. If it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be fooled by feelings. I'll hold fast to what is true. If the cross brings transformation, I'll be crucified with you.
'Cause death is just a doorway into resurrection life. If I join you in your suffering, then I'll join you in your rise. When you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing, my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified, let His face rise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh,
especially to us in this time when we have so much excess time on our hands. Can we just learn to grow in our walk with you? In your name, amen.
Hello everyone, and good evening again. Again, my name is Jordan, and I work with middle school and high school students here at Kearney E. Free. We are about to continue our series called Unstoppable Joy, which has been it's about a letter to the Philippians. But before we do that, I want to take a minute to talk about some of the issues that have been going on in our country. I want to talk about this because we have a number of students in student ministry that are African American. And we have a number of students that have parents or a parent who's African American. And we have many students who have friends who are African American. And I just want you to know that their lives matter. Their lives matter to me, their lives matter to our church, and their lives matter to God. That I am sorry that you have watched people that look like you die on sidewalks and streets. That I can't imagine what that must be like. And I just want you to know that you matter to me, and that we love you and we care deeply about you, and that you matter to God and He loves you and cares deeply about you. And I am praying for peace, and I'm praying for justice. I also know that we have many students whose has a parent that serves in the law enforcement. And I'm so thankful for those parents, that they matter. Their lives matter. I'm so thankful for the many, many, many great and good police officers we have in Kearney, Nebraska. I'm so thankful for the incredible police officers we have that serve our church on Sunday mornings, that their lives matter, and I'm thankful for them that they are so good in their job and they are serving our community so well. And I'm thankful for the number of young men that I know that desire to go into law enforcement, that we need more good police officers. And I'm thankful that there are young men that their desires to go and to represent and to serve and care for their community and their country through the law enforcement. And I am praying for peace, and I am praying for an end to the rioting, that I am thankful for so many peaceful protests that are happening, and I'm heartbroken over those people their livelihoods have been destroyed through rioting, and their businesses have been destroyed. I'm praying for an end to that. But I just wanted you to know before we get into this that if you are an African American, your life matters. If you are a police officer, your life matters. And that we're praying for peace, we're praying for a better tomorrow where our brothers and sisters in the African American community can feel safe. I pray and I hope they feel safe in Kearney, but I hope that all corners of the United States will become safe for them and they feel safe in it. Let me pray, and then we'll move on to our message. Father God, we thank you that you're a God who loves your creation. God, whether they are white or black or some other color, God, you love them and they matter to you and they're equal in your sight. God, I thank you for that. And Lord, I pray for our African American students. Lord, I pray that they would really know, that they would feel right now that they are loved, that their lives matter. God, I pray for them as they just see a nation that hurts and they see people that look like them hurting and not knowing what to do and where to go with that. Lord, I pray that they would turn it to you. God, I pray that we would see justice served for George Floyd, that he would get justice for the way that his life was ended. And Lord, as we turn to the book of Philippians, God, I thank you that your word, that it is powerful and it is helpful. And God, I pray that it would be powerful in our hearts tonight as we read it and study it together. Pray this all in your Son's name. Amen. So we are continuing our series in Unstoppable Joy by looking at the letter to the Philippians. And I'm thankful for the verses that we're going to look at tonight, because with all that's going on in our country, I'm thankful that we're going to look at a joy that is greater than circumstances. A joy that is greater than painful and difficult circumstances. Then in the middle of all those things, we can still rejoice. we can still have joy. And so I want to study Paul tonight, because Paul is going to give some examples that he was currently going through as he was writing the letter, that he was in the middle of some really painful and difficult things, and yet he had reason to rejoice. And so I want to talk about that together tonight. So if you would you turn with me in the book in the Bible to the letter to the Philippians? That you can find it after 2 Corinthians. It goes 2 Corinthians, then Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians. So if you get to 2 Corinthians, you're almost there. Slow down. You'll get to Philippians. Looking for Philippians chapter 1, verse 12 is where we're going to begin tonight. I'll give you a couple of seconds to get to there. And so, Philippians 1, verse 12, we're going to read and stop and talk and read and talk, but here's what it goes. It says, "And I want you to know, my dear brothers and sisters, that everything that has happened to me here has helped to spread the good news. For everyone here, including the whole palace guard, knows that I am in chains because of Christ. And because of my imprisonment, most of the believers here have gained confidence and boldly speak God's message without fear." And so let's talk about what Paul is talking about. So he's saying that he is currently in prison. So we're going to draw Paul again. So we have Paul. Give him his little hair. So here's Paul. Paul. Now Paul is in prison. And he is in prison because he shared the gospel. That he continued to tell people about Jesus when they said, "You need to stop doing this, Paul. You can't talk anymore about this Jesus." And Paul says, "No, I'm going to continue to share the good news of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection." And so he's in jail. And so let's talk for a moment about how being in jail is a bad circumstance. Being imprisoned is a painful and difficult circumstance. That this is no small thing. This isn't a hangnail. This isn't a stub toe. He is suffering. But yet he rejoices. Now the reason he says that we should rejoice is because there are people outside of prison and these people, I don't want to make them angry, because they're not angry. They are become more bold to share the gospel. So these people have been working together to share the gospel, the good news. They've been telling people about Jesus, and they become more bold because of Paul's imprisonment. Because they've seen that while Paul is in prison, more and more people in the prison have realized that why Paul is there is for Jesus. And I think that some of them are coming to trust and believe in Jesus. Some of the guards, maybe some of the fellow prisoners, they've begun to trust and believe that Jesus is the Savior, the Messiah, the rescuer of the world. And as they are seeing this, it's causing these people to become more bold. They become bolder or more bold. And Paul is rejoicing. So what we see is that Paul has a joy that's greater than physical trouble. Paul's joy is greater than even the physical trouble he's experiencing by being imprisoned. His joy is not stopped because of his imprisonment. Now the reason again is because he's looking out here and he's saying, okay, my imprisonment, the result of it is actually that people are becoming more bold as they look at me. So let me give you a different example. Now I hope this example never happens, but if it does, what I hope I'm about to tell you is what happens. Now that sounds confusing, but let me explain. So pretend that I get cancer. That's what I hope never happens. But pretend that I do get cancer. My hope is that even though I have cancer, my hope is that as I go and I get chemo treatments and radiation treatments, and I'm cared for by doctors, I hope that I would be able to share the gospel, the good news, that I would still have this joy that Paul has. And as they look at me and they see me go, Jordan, why are you still joyful? Your hair is falling out and you're sick because of this chemo and radiation. Why are you still joyful? And I'd be able to tell them the good news and the hope that I have in Jesus Christ. And as I share that, maybe more of them would come to know and trust Jesus. And as more of them come to know and trust Jesus, and I tell you about this good things that God's doing through my cancer, that might cause you guys to become more bold in your faith. That you might be more willing to share your faith at school or with friends who don't know Jesus, and to share about the good news you have. And that we could rejoice. I could rejoice because I'm hearing how you're growing, and you could rejoice because you see the fruit that's coming out of even this painful, difficult circumstance. And so again, I hope that never happens. But if it does happen, I hope that is what happens. And so again, Paul has a joy that's greater than physical trouble. And as we move on, we're going to talk about how do we get this joy? How do we get this joy that's greater than physical trouble? But Paul's joy is not just greater than physical trouble, it's greater than evil intentions. And so I want to show you that. In verse 15, Paul says, "It's true that some are preaching out of jealousy and rivalry, but others preach about Christ with pure motives. They preach because they love me, for they know I have been appointed to defend the good news. Those others do not have pure motives as they preach about Christ. They preach with selfish ambition, not sincerely intending to make my chains more painful to me. But that doesn't matter. Whether their motives are false or genuine, the message about Christ is being preached either way. So I rejoice. And I will continue to rejoice, for I know that as you pray for me and the Spirit of Jesus Christ helps me, this will lead to my deliverance." So now we get to the second trouble that Paul is dealing with and how his joy is greater than that. So the trouble that he's dealing with is that there are some people that are preaching outside of prison, and these people are preaching with evil intentions. So, they are talking about Jesus. They are sharing the gospel. But their intentions are to increase, this is a plus, increase their brand. They just want to make their name bigger. They aren't sincerely preaching about Jesus. They're not sincerely trying to make his name great or increase his fame. They're just trying to increase their brand. And while they're doing that, their also intention is to hurt Paul. So again, Paul says that it's true that some are preaching out of jealousy and rivalry. So we have this guy over here. He's preaching out of jealousy of Paul and what Paul was doing before he was in prison. And he's preaching out of rivalry that he just wants to be the best, or he wants to increase his brand. Then he says, but others preach about Christ with pure motives. He says, these people over here who've become more bold, they're preaching with pure motives. He says, they preach because they love me, for they know I have been appointed to defend the good news. Those others over here, they do not preach with pure motives as they preach about Christ. They preach with selfish ambition. Their ambition is to increase their name, to increase their brand, if you will. Intending to make my chains, Paul's chains, more painful to me. And so Paul is saying there's these people with evil intentions that are out to hurt me and out to only increase themselves. But he says even though they're out to do this, he says that doesn't matter. He says whether their motives are false or genuine, the message about Christ is being preached either way, so I rejoice. So I have joy, so I celebrate because Jesus is being proclaimed. He says there are people that are hearing this message even though it's coming from a bad source. That they are not sincere in sharing about Jesus. They're really just trying to build themselves. Paul says, I rejoice because people are hearing it and still coming to faith. People are still turning their lives over to Jesus, and they're going to realize what this person's about, and they're going to go over here, I think. But underneath it all, Paul is rejoicing, and the reason he's rejoicing is because he knows that Jesus is still being preached. And so we see that Paul, again, has a joy that's greater than evil intentions. Paul's joy is greater than evil intentions. That his joy is not stopped by this person's evil intentions, but instead, Paul's joy continues. It's greater than this, that he finds, even in this, he goes, well, they're still talking about Jesus, that's great. That I'm going to rejoice, I'm going to celebrate that Jesus is being preached and people's lives are still being changed, even if it's coming from a bad source whose main focus is themselves and trying to hurt me. So think about it this way. Pretend that you were someone who is sharing the gospel with friends at school, and somebody begins to mistreat you because you're sharing the gospel. And they're beginning to come at you verbally and mistreat you verbally and say mean and hurtful things to you. But instead of responding with more mean and hurtful things, instead of trying to go after them, you say, I'm going to pray for you. That you respond to them with kindness and with gentleness, even as they come towards you with evil intentions and hurt in their voice. What I think is going to happen is that people around you are going to notice the difference in you and going to say, I want what they have. I want to be able to be mistreated the way they're being mistreated and to respond with love and kindness the way they are. That I don't want to be on that team over there that's mean and hurtful. I want to be on this team that is loving and kind. Tell me more about your Jesus. And that their intentions were evil, but God is using this moment for good, and God is raising up in this moment good things coming out of it. And so Paul is having joy, and you can have joy, and I can have joy, because even in the midst of evil intentions, God can bring about good. Even in the midst of difficulty, God can bring about good, and so we can rejoice. So that's the second area that Paul's joy is greater than. That's the second place that Paul's joy is bigger than and greater than, and it can endure. But now we get to the third thing, found in verse 20. Paul says, "For I fully expect and hope that I will never be ashamed, but that I will continue to be bold for Christ, as I have been in the past." He says, I know that I'm not going to be ashamed for following Christ. That people might try to shame me, but ultimately I'm going to be vindicated for following Jesus. He says, so I'm going to continue to be bold in sharing Christ. Then he says, and I trust that my life will bring honor to Christ whether I live or die. For to me, living means living for Christ, and dying is even better. But if I live, I can do more fruitful work for Christ, so I really don't know which is better. I'm torn between two desires. I long to go and be with Christ, which would be far better for me. But for your sakes, it is better that I continue to live. Knowing this, I am convinced that I will remain alive so I can continue to help all of you grow and experience the joy of your faith. And when I come to you again, you will have even more reason to take pride in Christ Jesus because of what he is doing through me. And so here's what Paul is saying. This is the insane thing that Paul is saying. I'm going to write it on the board because it's so crazy. So he's in prison. And he says, so, I really don't know which is better. I'm torn. So this is Paul in prison, and he's saying, I don't know which one of these two things are better. Now, do you know what the two things he's talking about is? He's talking about either A, being executed, that his life is being threatened, like literally being threatened. And he's saying, I don't know if it's better for me to be executed, for my life to end, or for me to be released and to go and continue to serve Christ here on earth. He says, it'd be better for me to die because then I would go immediately into God's presence and I would spend eternity with him. But it's actually better for you that I would stay and continue to work and continue to encourage you and continue to see you built up in the faith. He says, I don't know which one of these is better. I don't know which one of these I should be hoping for more. I don't know which one it is. I am torn. Like, this is how untouchable Paul is. He's in prison, and the guards might be thinking, man, that guy down there is probably sweating. He's probably really worried about what's going to happen to him. Are we going to execute him? Are we going to take the sword and end his life? Or are we going to let him go? He's probably really worried. And here's Paul in there writing a letter and saying, so I don't really know which is better. I don't really know what I want to hope for. What I'm hoping is going to come out of this. Are they going to release me or are they going to execute me? I don't know really which one. I'm torn. Like, this is crazy. But this is the joy, this is the hope, this is the peace that Paul has. And it's so much greater than circumstantial, I just got released, circumstantial, I'm not in prison. It's so much greater than that. Paul has a joy that's greater than life-threatening trouble. So now let's talk about how is it that Paul gets this joy. So last week we talked about how the source of this unstoppable joy is Jesus. And now I want to add on top of that this week, it's trusting in God that gives us this joy that's greater than these circumstances. So when we trust in God, and not just for our eternity, not just saying, Jesus, I trust you with my life after I die, but I trust you with my life here on earth. That right now I trust you, that I live with my hands like this, open-handed, saying, I trust you. The way Paul could say, I trust you, God, with my imprisonment. That I know that I'm in prison not because they dragged me in here, not because they can keep me in here, but because, God, you have a purpose in this. And so I'm going to look for it. He says, what I see is people becoming more bold because of my imprisonment, because they're seeing about what the gospel is doing through my imprisonment. Saying, I'm experiencing people's evil intentions, that I know they're trying to hurt me as they proclaim you, God, but I know ultimately I'm going to rejoice because they're still proclaiming you. And then he says, I know that I'm facing execution. I'm facing having my life ended. I know that's what I'm facing, but yet still, I have this peace because I know my life ultimately is not in their hands, God, it's in yours. And that I'm not going anywhere until you're ready to bring me home. And so I'm at peace. And he says, ultimately, I think that you're going to release me because that's what's best for the church, is that I be released and continue to serve and work and care for the church and the people in it and bring more people into it through sharing the gospel. And so it's through trusting God with our lives right now, saying, God, this moment hurts and I hate it and I don't like it, but God, I help me to see the good that you are bringing about in this. God, help me to see how these people's evil intentions, you're working them out for good in my life, that they intended it for evil, but God, you are intending to use it for good in my life. God, that though they think they can take my life from me, ultimately, God, you hold my life in your hands, and so I am safe. And the most they possibly can do to me, God, is send me to you. That I am secure and I am safe with you, God. And so I believe that this greater than joy, it starts by trusting and believing in Jesus, but then it continues by placing our lives and trusting them day by day, moment by moment, year by year, week by week, all of that in God. And saying, God, I trust in your good control. I trust that you have a good plan and that I am part of that plan and that what's going on right now is part of that plan, and I'm going to trust and rest in you. And because we have a God like that, we can rejoice. That we can rejoice in the middle of all that, and we can celebrate and say, God, I don't like this, this, and this, but I see where you're doing this, this, and this, and I'm going to rejoice in those things and have peace in the middle of everything going on. And so I am thankful that even right now, as our country is in chaos, I am rejoicing that we have a God who sees. I'm rejoicing that we have a God who demands justice. I'm rejoicing that we have a God who loves each one of us equally. I am rejoicing that we have a God who loves all people. And then he offers us all a new life. Would you pray with me? Father God, would you help us to rejoice? Would you help us to have this greater than joy that Paul knows and Paul has and he's offering to us through your Son? God, I pray that you would train us and teach us how to rejoice in the midst of trials and suffering. That we would lament in times of lament, but we would rejoice knowing that there's something you're doing that's good. Whether that's a global thing like a pandemic, a country thing like the rioting and all of that that's going on, or whether it's something local, that maybe it's a mom or dad who lost a job, a son or a student who's disappointed that their baseball or softball or soccer season or tennis or whatever it might be is canceled. God, I pray that they would, in the middle of that, say, God, what are you doing here that I can rejoice in? What are you doing that I can hold on to? God, I thank you that you hold on to us and we always are held by you, that our lives are held in your hand. We're safe and secure with you. God, we thank you that we have a greater than joy offered to us through Jesus and through trusting in you. Pray this all in your Son's name. Amen. So now we are going to move on to a time of response questions. All right, question number 1. Where do you need a greater than joy this week? Where is it right now that you need to say, God, would you help me to see where you're at work so I can have this greater than joy? You have a few more seconds. Okay, question number 2. So which do you find more difficult for you to face? Is it physical trouble, or is it emotional or verbal trouble? Is it physical things like coronavirus, or is it verbal things like someone saying they don't like you or someone belittling you? Which one do you think is more difficult for you to face? Take a few minutes to talk about that as a family. All right, a few more seconds. Question number 3. Who is it that you could encourage this week? Who could you give a phone call to? Maybe it's a grandparent or a cousin or somebody that you know you haven't talked to in a while, that you could just call up and say, you matter to me. That this is one of the things that I love about you, Grandma. This is one of the things that I love about you, this friend or that person. And just say, I care about you. Who could you call this week and encourage? All right, you have a few more seconds. Alrighty, that is it for our questions. And now it is time for me to bring some levity to this by singing a song that the Sunbergs have chosen for me to sing. And this song cannot be sung indoors. I just don't think this song can possibly be sung indoors. And so we need to take this song outside. The hills are alive with the sound of music. The songs they have sung for 1,000 years. My hills are like hearts, the sound of music. And the heart wants to sing every song it hears. My heart wants to beat like the wings of a bird as they fly through the trees. My heart wants to swing like a child rise on the breeze. Laugh like a brook that ramps and falls over stones, and on this way to sing through the night like a lark that is learning to pray. Oh, to the hills when my heart is lonely. I was here long before. My heart will be raised with a song of music, and I will say once more. Well, thank you, everyone. It was so good to be here with you tonight for youth group. I hope that your family is doing well. I hope you had a good laugh. I look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday night. Remember, we have church services in person tomorrow Thursday at 7 p.m. here in the church, in the auditorium, the chapel, the venue. Please register online, kearneyefree.com/news or /reboot. You can sign up there. And then also, we have services in person on Sunday, 9, 15, 11, and 7. I hope that you will come join us for a church service. I am so excited that we can have people in our building. It's going to be awesome. So have a great rest of the night. Love you guys. Bye.